I always wanted to be an artist ever since I started making sculptures as a little kid. But I wasn't happy just making shapes. I wanted to make art out of everything. I wanted to create with no boundaries, as if my hair was on fire.
Oh, there you are. How you doing?
Hey, did you finish crafting your intro?
Well, of course. What did you think I was doing? Horsing around over here?
Let's hear it.
Okay. Ever since I was a little kid, I always wanted to be an artist. I wanted to not just make shapes, but I wanted to talk to people where they live and die, to create without boundaries, as if my hair was on fire.
You didn't work on it, did you?
Yeah, I added the fire part. People love fire.
It doesn't sound very serious. So you got to come across as dignified if you want anyone to take you serious as an artist.
You know, I really appreciate you wanting to do this show about my art, but the fact is, it's all over the place. It's like trying to organize a ballet out of a kindergarten.
I'm telling you, I can make a story out of anything. It's no problem. That's why I wanted to do this. Just take us through some of the different media that you have.
Okay, but I'm telling you, it's so varied that it's kind of like the work of 50 artists. It's like going through the lost and found backstage at the opera. I don't know why I can't just concentrate on one style like most artists do, but no, for me, every day presents me with a new kind of experience, so I have to respond in kind. It's like life itself is an empty canvas, and I can just toss paint at it in whatever way I want.
What's wrong with that?
Well,
your diversity is what's interesting about you.
Yeah, except
it's not the only thing, of course. You can be boring too. We've seen that. But let's tackle this head on. You can start it on fire.
Well, the creative life is a lot of fun, but you really pay for it in social capital.
What makes you think that?
Well, like this friend of mine, who shall remain nameless, comes in the studio this morning, and he's using this funny Bobby Brodenheimer voice. It's like it brightens up everybody's day, but then there's, of course, you know, the hidden consequences.
Oh, you mean the consequences it takes on my natural, sonorous voice?
I know the social consequences.
Well, I have no idea. Whatever it is, you seem to be pretending anyone would think you're talking about.
No, you wouldn't, Bobby, But then Lauren pulls me aside as I come in, and she says, you know, friends don't let friends have that much caffeine. And then Dave comes to me and he says, is he all right? He sounds like he still has his asparagus stuck up his nose from last weekend's party. Then Brian suggests to me, wow, I'd love to have a voice like that, but jeez, I sure wouldn't take it out in public.
You want to borrow it sometime? Is that what you're trying not to ask me about maybe wanting?
Come on, nobody said that.
No, they didn't really, but I could tell they were thinking it.
Okay, what are you getting at? What's your point?
Well, you know, my art is just scattered all over like a tornado through Christmas morning, but still, it really is a part of me, just like you and your closet full of characters, like Frankie Finnegan and Larry the Labrador.
And Lou Bass from upstate New York, but he lives downstairs in the basement of Garrett's mind.
And Mr. Glisson.
And Doris, the teenage chain smoker.
And Skip Monkovich from Forest Fever.
And Marishi Matilda of the Tibetan Tundra.
And Needle Barksmith from the Pinecone Daily. And Ulf Yano from Nova Scotia. And that guy with the funny, Nick Milodragovich. What a crazy name.
Nick's not a character. He's a real person.
Yeah, I know. I'm half Martian on my father's side.
He was my roommate.
God, your place must be just like standing room only.
And business partner.
Wait a minute, Nick? Nick is a real person? Nick Milodragovich?
Yes.
Oh, I always thought you did him exceptionally well. This is embarrassing.
I'm just kidding. So, what do my voices have to do with this?
Well, underneath all the splash, all these characters are lovable, but they're parts of your own personality. You're like a zoo, but you have to take responsibility for every one of them.
Except Nick.
Well, except for Nick, of course. No wonder he never got my humor. They're really endlessly entertaining, and of course we love them, but there's a certain, embarrassment to being seen for who you really are.
It feels a little bit like being a sloth in a sewage pond. I know what you mean.
Yeah, you do know what I mean. I don't want to be made a fool of on TV. Let's just play to my strengths and focus on the art.
Okay, we can start there. But don't worry about your diversity. That just gives your story some interest. So you do the intro, and then it'll cut to me saying, and now in our hometown, we have an internationally known sculptor. And now forget about it. I'll do the intro. Stand and observe. Oh. Don't actually stand. One of Montana's most interesting and celebrated artists is Tim Holmes, a sculptor and filmmaker, though he calls himself an artist philosopher. He works in a variety of interesting media, and we're going to explore some of that on today's show. Tim started making metal sculptures at age 11 and eventually gained an international reputation. He's designed many award sculptures, such as for the United Nations and the Physicians for Social Responsibility. He's even designed sculpture for the Olympic bid by South Africa. Tim, welcome, and thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks, Garrett. Actually, being the co-host of the show, I'm on every single episode, but I'll play along.
It's only our 4th episode, so we're not sure viewers would have noticed you yet. Before we get into some of the other media, take us through your sculptures.
Okay, so I've always been inspired by the human figure. It's the most beautiful thing in the universe, and I think the most deeply symbolic image we have. So over the years, I developed a reputation for doing sculpture about social justice issues and was lucky enough to work on some national democracy movements and other pivotal events. And I got to meet some incredible folks like Rosa Parks, Archbishop Desmond Tutu. I even did some projects with democracy movements in South Africa. And also a remarkable project where I was commissioned to create a sculpture for the Chinese democracy movement that was used to raise money following the Tiananmen Square massacre to get the word back into China about what had really happened after the massacre, because of course the Chinese government was repressing all that.
Okay, that'll work, and then I'll jump in. Tim became the first American artist ever to be exhibited solo at the world's largest museum, the Hermitage in St. Petersburg, Russia. The exhibition was called An Emergency of Joy, and our then Vice President Al Gore came to see it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then they'll want to know where that came about, how it came about, what happened afterwards. That's kind of in this film clip you have?
Yeah, right here. Let's
Okay.
see. Oh, not that. That's my early self-portrait. Not that one. That's my dog. How did that get in there?
You don't even have a dog.
Well, then how do you explain this picture?
Okay, moving along.
Here we go.
To show to you this beautiful exhibition of beautiful small sculptures which have very deep meaning. Some have suit the most famous and well-sold artists of the world.
This exhibit at the Hermitage is called An Emergency of Joy. And the way this came about is I had an exhibit at an art museum in Seattle, Washington. I came to collect everything at the end of the exhibition, and I found a notation in the guest book from a Russian woman. And she gave me her name and address, and she said, "I like your work. May I write to you? Send pictures."
I was that crazy woman who decided to bring Tim to Russia because when I visited the show in Seattle Art Museum, I was really impressed with the very high spirituality I felt in his works. And I decided that it's find good reflection in the Russian soul.
I tried to think of as many different ways as I could to ask this really important question: why me? And they kept saying, because we like your work.
Wir mit meiner Kollegin Frau Kosterio, wir haben diese Fotografien gesehen und das war sehr interessant, weil ich kann sagen, weil das ist nicht amerikanisch. Das war eine europäische Bildhauer und nicht amerikanisch. Es ist für uns französische Schule oder ich weiß nicht, aber das ist mit guter Plastik und mit gutem Humor und auch sehr interessant. Hatte ich schon Fotografie gesehen und so weiter, aber auch die Werke sind noch besser.
We went to see Dr. Piotrovsky, and when I asked Dr. Piotrovsky, is it serious? He said, yeah, I trust my experts. And Mr. Androsov is known for his strict, very serious approach to the artwork. I was very, very excited about that show because it was very first show of contemporary artist, a live American artist, who was exhibited at the State Hermitage Museum. For St. Petersburg and for Russia, it was a great cultural event. We found a very good place for display in the foyer of the Hermitage Theater. It's a gallery with the two rows of windows on both sides. And we had a very good exhibit designer, and we installed additional lights. And it was, at that time, maybe a little strange, but the combination of this decoration, Hermitage decoration with the contemporary sculpture, it gave a special, a special taste. Shortly after we made the show, Mr. Gore was expected to visit Russia and St. Petersburg, and Dr. Piotrovsky said, Tatiana, if we keep the show a little longer, would it be okay? And they brought, when Gore visited St. Petersburg, they brought him to this show to show that there is a cooperation between the Hermitage and the United States.
Oh yeah, I recognize that. So after we run the clip, I'll identify that that's from a documentary by an Austrian filmmaker named Karen Wally. She and her crew traveled to 3 different countries to film the documentary titled The Moving Art of Tim Holmes.
Right, you met her when you were over there in Vienna.
Yeah. See, this is all going to work out. It's going to fit together just fine. Take us through some of the other varieties you have.
Okay, it's a lot, but if you think it's going to fly.
It doesn't scare me.
It's going to take a lot more than that to trip up
The enlightened sage of story yoga. Oh, you don't know what kind of a storyteller you're dealing with.
I'm telling you, I can find a story in a pile of
So bring it on, man.
I'm no match for the committee, I'll tell you that. Okay, so at one point I did a museum exhibition called The Visitation by the Muse, about a deeply moving experience, encountering the source of my own creative energy, my muse. The show was wrapped around about 100 huge drawings, and the result was an entire museum installation, designed to look like the viewer had just kind of stumbled into my studio just as I was stepping out. So here's this hurricane of furious art scattered all over the place, right among all the boring details of my daily domestic life. Hey, what's in the bag? You bring some show and tell?
Oh, this? No, I cleaned out my car. I was going to throw it out, but you know how we're always needing strange props for the show?
Yeah.
I figured I'd bring it in just in case.
Let me get this straight. We're doing a show about my art, and you decide to bring in a bag of trash to use as illustration?
Yeah, that doesn't look too good, does it? Hey, do you have another one of those film clips?
Yeah. So speaking of that show, I found another clip from a documentary about that. Let's see. No, that's not it. That's a porcupine. That doesn't help. Ah, here it is.
When I first began searching for my muse, I had no idea that she was also hunting me. These drawings and notes are the footprints of a deeper internal struggle, which was totally a private process and was never meant to be shared, let alone exhibited publicly. So this exhibit came about at the urging of several close friends who I had allowed to see some of the drawings. I offer the exhibit in the hope that it might illuminate God's incredible gift to us of this unbearable, erotic and frightening beauty that has brought us to the evolutionary throne and promises to deliver us from a mechanistic approach to the problems of life. I have stepped into her aura, and now I am stricken. My heart is a bound eagle. It sits in me like a disease. It glares at me through bars. My breath is short, my head full of light and marvels. I wander looking for medicine. Is it in the cold wind, or my sketchbook, or deep in the piano? I don't know how to release the pressure. How can a simple image so upset my soul? She pulls me out of the tiny hole of my heart, like all the spinning planets rushing through one tiny aperture. It is the Song of the Sirens, October 29th. The images grab and shake me. I've never been so anxious to be alone as in the last 2 weeks. And my tender feelings hang about me like long garments. Day 15. My response is an aesthetic one, but one I would classify as pure prayer. November 28th. The danger comes not in the siren's song, but in refusing to sing your own. I'm fierce for only two things, time to work and time to be alone. Meanwhile, the affliction, that oppressive lightness in the chest, the emotional overflow, the sleeping disorders, seem to ebb and flow. Day 30.
So, with that, you have a museum installation, but how are you going to incorporate that with the rest of my sculpture?
Oh, that's easy. We'll wrap it around the central importance of the creative process. See, here's the pile of hay, and here is the story. So what else you got?
Well, this led me into a period of exploring an idea I call sensuous mysticism. So much of that was created in collaboration with other artists. It's about the spiritual aspect of the body and how that illuminates and transforms our bodily experience, bringing an awareness of the deeper meaning of life to the longing for the beyond. So the viewer's transformed by this spectacular view from the mountaintop, impossible without this rigorous climb that the body has to undergo. Uh-oh, not that, that's a zipper tree. How in the world did these things get in here? Really, I don't know how you're going to make a cohesive story out of all this.
What do you mean this is going to be perfect? We'll talk about how you don't work in a particular recognizable style like Van Gogh or Matisse, but that each expression must find its own appropriate medium. Mm-hmm. See?
You might want to wash your hands. Okay, so then I did this whole series of sculptures called Dangerous Books, using actual books as the medium. Following some contentious news events, I started to think about how is it that a free and open society deals with powerful, dangerous ideas? Because there are some things that we just can't talk about.
Oh, you have another joke slide there.
No, that particular joke is more of my art. This is a series of paintings I did in Europe, scenes of landscapes and buildings that come alive with movement and seem to dance. But no, let's not use that. Instead, let me talk about some of my metaphysical maps. These are maps of internal journeys that combine antique map aesthetics with abstract expressionist painting. And my idea here is that none of us really know what life is going to bring. We're always just kind of stumbling along, doing the best we can, like the early explorers. But how are you going to incorporate all this detritus into the rest of the art?
I'm telling you, what you think is trash, I'll turn to treasure. Check it out. We'll frame the story as the lone artist trying to find his way of spiritual enlightenment in a land of materialism. This fertilizer's rich.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Well, if you're still with me, then I made that series of films where I'm presenting the value of the body in a capitalist culture. Remember that?
Yeah, that's the Body Psalms project. It asks, what is the value of the flesh? Do you have some photos of that?
Yeah.
The Lord is my shepherd.
What I wanted to do here was engage people in a way that is new for me, but raises the perfect questions that I'm after. I wanted to use these more contemporary media images, combining words and body images, kind of like what we see in advertising, to talk about the sacredness of the flesh.
I shall not want.
But geez, we already did that show. Even if nobody remembers seeing me here before, let's forget about that.
We've already forgotten.
As it is, we're already trying to do way too much stuff here. I feel like I'm trying to tell a story from my childhood using only song titles.
Hey, don't underestimate a guy who can tell us that story.
Yeah, who, Bobby?
No, me.
You kidding me? You're pulling my gams here. You weren't even born until the 80s.
Well, for what it's worth, I was a fortunate son. Not the son of a preacher, but you know, I wasn't a voodoo child either. I was a free bird, born to be wild. My mother was a proud Mary, and my dad was a blue-collar man. I had 2 brothers in arms and 1 sister golden hair. We were just everyday people. We had 1 telephone line, and the boys in the hood could call me by dialing 8675.
309.
I rode the yellow submarine to school, but I took the long way home. I wasn't a rich girl. I was a simple man. I liked to play that funky music, and I always wore cheap sunglasses, even at night. If I asked to borrow the hot rod Lincoln, my parents would say, "You can't always get what you want." Boy, I couldn't get no satisfaction. And by that, I mean RESPECT. I would jive, talk, and walk this way. For years, I felt like I was free falling, and all my answers were blowing in the wind. Then one day in the cold November rain, my papa came with a brand new bag. He said, "Son, I heard it through the grapevine you've been playing with a burning ring of fire." I'm just kidding. I take it back. He said, "The times, they're a-changing. They keep slipping into the future. Imagine all the people working 9 to 5, 8 days of the week, lying to themselves that it hurt so good. Garret, find the peace train. Keep running down your dream, and don't stop believing."
Man.
Any questions?
Yeah. Brian, can I get a refill?
Okay, so we can frame this story as the struggling artist trying to wrestle with spiritual issues in a consumerist culture. I'm telling you, there is no art you can create that won't fit under the umbrella of a well-told story.
Oh, yeah?
Whatever the heck it is, lay it down. Come on, lay, lady, lay.
Well, I did bring this sculpture to show you. It's really a relationship sculpture. It doesn't look like much. It's just 2 figures that are...
What the hell is that?
They're looped together by this loop at the feet, but they come together in all these different ways. They actually have 40 different ways they come together. So for me, this is a sculpture about how we do relationships.
Okay. We can frame this in terms of Nabokov's definition of art, beauty plus pity, or as Ezra Pound's famous quote, "The artist is the antenna of the race." No problem, we got this. What else do you got?
You know, after the financial crisis, I started to think, how can one person raise awareness about the democratic function of the monetary system? So I started circulating these blue bills.
Okay, you better explain yourself.
So money isn't imposed from on high, it's generated and agreed upon by we the people. And if we want our money to be honest and to reflect real value, we can do that. In fact, any single person can dye their own. It's perfectly legal. Just follow the instructions here on bluebills.us. We could actually transform the whole economy into a more honest system if everybody used this process.
I didn't realize I was talking to Papa Smurf. This is going to be more difficult than I thought. This is a modern issue.
Yeah, I could tell from your song title that you're not really fluent with modern issues.
You mean like this? I was born this way. I had 2 big brothers and 1 sister. From my front porch looking in, you could see the house that built me to believe in a thing called love. Once upon a dream, I kissed a girl with the pumped up kicks, and I liked it. She was bootylicious, but it was a bad romance. She said, "You should have put a ring on it, call me maybe. But I got a feeling what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And tomorrow will be kinder." See, I wasn't a hollaback girl. I was a soldier boy. I like to shake my tail feather and drop it like it's hot with moves like Jagger. I have a stutter, but I always wore my Papa poker face, Oppa Gangnam style. It's getting hot in her. YOLO, party rock, boom, boom, pow. Harder, better, faster, stronger. You got to lose yourself in the music of life. You don't get a second chance. Roar, day and night, because when the music stops and you're no longer young and beautiful, you would give everything for one more time to just dance.
Brilliant. Wow.
So all of this other art is doable, but this bluebills, this is art? Don't tell me there's more weird stuff like this.
I mean, my later projects start to look more like psychology or philosophy than regular traditional art, but really, it's all about creative expression. It has no other purpose than simply to encourage imagination and joy.
I'm afraid to ask. Like what?
Well, there are some projects that are more like creative processes than solid objects. Some of them that I even call psychic art because they actually happen inside the viewer's mind, like this series of drawings that I did where the drawings themselves transform as the lights dim. But all of this is about art that you can make out of anything. It's not about the subject or the medium. It's It's about finding some aspect of life that you can illuminate in some new way. And there's nothing outside of that possibility. Like, where'd you put that bag that you had?
What, the trash?
Yeah.
The one you made such a fuss about? I threw it out.
You what? That would have been perfect here.
Oh, now I'm starting to see the brain damage from when your hair was on fire.
Oh, man, I was afraid of this.
I'm lost, man. I used to think you were some creative genius, but all this looks like pure lunacy. There's no way that we can include all of this different art without ruining your appearance of dignity.
Oh, dignity? Now I have to emulate dignity? What, on such short notice? Well, you're right. We should just throw out all this stuff and concentrate on the sculpture.
That was the whole show.
I'm sorry to let you down, Garrett. I'm sorry to let you down.
Yes!
I said I was sorry.
No, that's it. That's the show.
What, me apologizing? Who's going to want to watch that?
No. I mean, yes, that is the show. All right, I'm going to let you in on a secret story framing weapon.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So if we're going to maintain a through line here, and if we're going to tell this story about all your different media, like I promised I could, so we're going to have to be honest with the audience, right?
Yeah, right?
So we're going to have to level with them, right?
Right.
And it's not your art that is crazy.
Okay.
It's you. You are a derangified, lunatinatic, crazy person.
That sounds pretty bad coming from a guy with a dozen imaginary friends.
That's okay. There's nothing more compelling than a crazy creative genius.
Okay, guys, show in 1 minute.
Well, what about our 5-minute warning?
If you can have a 5-minute warning, it will be 4 minutes late.
Okay, an intro. We just got to come up with something that's totally bizarre that'll catch the audience off guard. We can do this. It's so close. We got to come up with something.
Well, I did think of something earlier.
We got to think fast, man. Tim, quit screwing around. What are you doing?
You'll see in a minute. Just stand and observe, huh? Okay, Brian, I want to get a tight shot on camera 1 here.
Go to that, and we can.
Oh, that's better.
Gotcha. Okay, we have show in 5, 4, 3, 2.